We are not playing with our counters right now. We're not playing with our cubes. We're going to be using those later, okay? If you don't look here, you're not going to know what to do. Thank you, Landon. Thank you, Jimena. Thank you, Caleb. Okay, so there are many different tools that we use to measure. And today we are going to use our cubes or counters or pieces of cereal or whatever we have, okay? So now we're going to get into our main idea. This is what our whole lesson is going to be about today. What is length? So length is how long or how short an object is. Remember how in our mystery bag activity, I showed an eraser and a whiteboard marker? We can actually look and measure to see how long something is or how short something is. So one school supply here is a picture of a paper clip. Do you think a paper clip is a short object or a long object? Yes, Charlotte.
A short object.
Yeah, it's pretty short. I don't really know any paper clips that are super long. And then we also have a highlighter. A highlighter like this one I have right here. I don't know if you can see it because I'm also sharing my screen. But this is an example of an object that's long, okay? So how do we figure out if an object is short or long other than just looking at it? That's where measuring comes in, okay? So we are going to be practicing measuring the length of school supplies using cubes or counters, whatever you have. I'm going to be using cubes, okay? So I want you guys to really focus. This is one of the most important things in our whole lesson today. If you don't focus, you're not going to be able to do the fun activities that we have. All right, are we all ready? Perfect. Thank you, Jacob, for your thumbs up. Okay, so when we measure school supplies, there's a couple of steps we have to do. I'm going to quickly show you, and I'm going to go into more detail later on when we do our activity, okay? So step number 1 is to get some cubes, and step number 2 is that we are going to use one of these cubes to start measuring how long this crayon is. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to line up our cube and our school supply. Do you see how they both start at the same line? It's not like this. It's not over here. We want it lined up because that's going to give us what's called an accurate measurement. Those are big words, but it just means that it's going to be the best measuring that we can do. The next step number 3, is that we are going to keep lining up our cubes just like this until we get to the end of our object. You see here how this is the end of my object and it lines up with my cube? And step number 4, the last thing we have to do is just count how many cubes long it is. So let's unmute and count together. 1, 2, 3. It is 3 cubes long. So I'm going to write 3 cubes long. And that's really just how we measure. Put a thumbs up if you guys understand it. Does it make sense to you? Put a thumbs up. Or a thumbs down if you're like, Miss Meyer, what? That makes no sense. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, it looks like a lot of us have our thumbs up. Perfect. We're going to be able to practice this later, okay? But before we do that, I wanted to ask you guys, we just measured how long our crayon is, which is 3 cubes long. I also have a ruler here. So now we have to figure out how can we figure out which object is, Mia, can you mute yourself? I'm going to mute you because you have a little background noise. We have to figure out how long or how short something is. So let's look at our ruler, okay? So here is our ruler, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the crayon. You are going to line it up. So see right here, my ruler begins, and so does my cube. And you're going to keep putting some cubes together until they go to the end of our ruler. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. So friends, I want you to look at this. Do you see how this cube here doesn't really line up all the way with our object? It's a little bit farther. So if this happens, we're just going to say, we're going to pretend we karate chop this cube in half. And we're going to say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 cubes long, okay? If that's a little confusing, don't worry about it, okay? I just want you to practice measuring, and this is our first lesson on measurement, so you're just going to do the best you can. So let me ask you, Patrick, if the crayon is 3 cubes long and our ruler is 4.5 cubes long, which object is longer? I can't hear you, Patrick. Is the crayon longer or is the ruler longer?
The ruler.
Yeah, the ruler is longer. Yeah, the ruler is longer. So I'm just going to label these. This is our shorter object and this is our longer object. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about measuring the length of school supplies, but I want you guys to do some real thinking. What are different things that we can measure in our own house? Maybe it's school supplies, maybe it's not. I have 4 hidden objects under these squares, but I first want to know what you guys think. What are some things that we can measure in our own house? Bella, what's something that you can measure in your house?
A ruler.
A ruler, fantastic. Max, what's something that you could measure in your house?
A bed.
A bed, that would be hard with cubes, but we could definitely measure a bed. And Annabella, what is something that we can measure in our house?
We could measure